Happy Mindful Monday, Conscious Leaders. So, as I said in our call, each week we are going to look a little deeper into how we see life that's happening to me, meaning at the effect of life, or that actually life is happening for me, recognizing that it's the perfect curriculum for our soul's evolution. And at the offsite, we spoke just briefly about the drama triangle. We're going to go into that a little bit deeper. And so each week, the Mindful Monday, it's actually going to be a little more content intentionally for you to really be able to see through and sift through and really take time to dissect one archetype or one role out of the drama triangle. So this is where we play one of these three roles, and we may shift roles, but we recognize we have a default. So we have the hero, the villain, and the victim. And so one is going to be our default, meaning that that's the one that we tend to just kind of be on autopilot and fall into. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't shift into these other roles even in one conversation. The more we become aware of them, the more we can come in and have a shift change, meaning show up differently. So we go from below the line, being in hero, villain, victim, to above the line. And we're going to talk each week about what that actually looks like. So today we're going to speak about the hero. And the hero is somebody that comes in and is like the rescuer, the knight in shining armor, the one that wants to, when they see someone that's really having a hard time, that's catabolic, that needs help, that feels overwhelmed, whatever it is, the hero comes in and saves the day. And oftentimes societally and just in many different areas of our lives, that's really looked upon as, well, that's great and that's valiant. The thing is that oftentimes when we show up as the hero, it costs us much more. And so that's one thing that I want to say is that also if you recognize that this is your default, I invite you to spend a little bit more time on it in inquiry to ask yourself, well, what is it? How does it serve me, right? So I get the pat on the back. I get people really, seeing me, and I get even I see it in my career. It's successful to a certain extent. And then we go, well, what is it costing me? And we start to list out all the different ways in which it's costing us physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually, within our relationships, our health. And so the longer that list goes, it actually helps us to see that we get enough leverage to actually shift something. So the hero. So I mentioned this briefly at the offsite. I would love to just mention it again. It's a great example. I was leading a workshop, and this woman who was sitting in for 2 days, she wasn't really saying much, and then right toward the tail end of the workshop, she had this great breakthrough in the sense of where she started to experience a lot of emotion. She started to cry, she started to share with us some story, and just really go there, allow herself to be super vulnerable. And in that moment, one woman just went right over to her and wanted to start consoling her, and I just paused for that moment. I was like, may I make a suggestion? Are you willing to just for a moment really see what might be playing out? And she was. And basically I just started to ask her some questions. I was like, what made you want to go over? And she was like, well, I just saw her crying and that was uncomfortable and I didn't want her to feel bad and I just felt so sorry for her. And then I was like, well, I'm just curious, like, why do you think it's your job to console her? And in addition to that, it's that, what meaning are you giving her crying right now? And another question that I asked her is, why do you think that that her crying is actually a bad thing? And so through those questions, she actually was able to see that she was doing it because that's been this role that she plays. It's basically a part of her identity. And she also started to really peel back more layers and recognize that she plays this so much that oftentimes it leaves her in that same place of feeling really drained. It fuels her to a certain extent because it makes her feel good to know that she can be there for people. Yet she started to see that it actually costs her more. And frequently she's kind of, her battery is empty. And she has frequent thoughts of, nobody really thinks about me, or I'm just so tired and there's not enough time for me, and those kind of things. And that is a very common thing for the hero. And so what we want to do as heroes, because oftentimes what we lack as heroes is having healthy boundaries. So we want to first have really healthy boundaries, whether that's we tell people that, hey, I'm going to need some time to get back to you, or maybe we give ourselves our own permission before we actually respond to somebody. We pause and we take our time, and we let people know, hey, it's actually more important for you to be able to do this, or how do you think that how would you be able to take care of this, or what do you think you can do this for this? And we kind of put it back on them. And it's a difference in the sense of where it could be like giving somebody a fish sandwich or actually teaching them how to fish. And as conscious leaders, we see the value of really teaching someone, and ultimately what we're doing is we're giving them an opportunity to take 100% responsibility, because otherwise we're the ones that are taking more than 100% responsibility, and no wonder why we feel drained over time. So this week, what I invite you to do is to take some time to get curious about how the hero may play out in your life. And even if it's not your default, you'll recognize that it actually does frequently. And in those moments, or if you have the opportunity to start getting curious around it. And then if you see that you are playing the hero for somebody else, then what I invite you to do is to get curious, to ask them questions, to establish healthy boundaries around them. And remember that not only when you do that it costs you, but also remember that you are supporting them in actually taking greater responsibility and being greater leaders. So give it a shot. Have fun with this. For sure, absolutely reach out. Whether we have a session or not this week, feel free to reach out with me. And if you get stuck, absolutely feel free to shoot me an email or give me a shout. So have a great week exploring your hero, and I'll see you next week.